Welcome back to Focus on Gaza. The latest critique of the siege from within Israel comes from Gisha, a not-for-profit organization fighting for freedom of movement for Palestinians. They've enlisted the creative flair of Yoni Goodman, director of the award-winning animation Waltz with Bashir. Here's a clip from the resulting film, Closed Zone. Well, joining us from Tel Aviv is Sari Bashi, the director of Gisha. Sari, welcome to Focus on Gaza. First of all, why do you do what you do?
If your question is why do I defend human rights, the answer is because it's terribly important, and it's important that it come from inside Israel as well as from outside. If you're asking me why we made an animated film, because we thought it would help. Ironically, we thought that the use of animation would help people recognize and empathize with the humanity of Gaza residents.
Now, with that in mind, a recent poll said 94% of Israeli Jews, excluding Palestinian Israelis, 94% of Israeli Jews supported the war on Gaza despite the appalling loss of civilian life. Doesn't that suggest to you that you are in the extreme minority and that your voice might not be heard?
I can't speak for the entire population of Israel. I can say that the movie was well received, that people in Israel took it as an opportunity to understand that 1.5 million people living in Gaza are trapped, and that their rights and their humanness need to be taken into consideration in considering access policies vis-a-vis Gaza.
Do you think that there's recourse in Israeli law and in the Israeli courts for people like you to try and help lift this blockade?
Gisha certainly brings petitions to Israel's High Court defending the rights of individual residents of Gaza to travel, to move between Gaza and the West Bank, to go abroad, and to move goods in and out of Gaza. As you know, the closure for the last 21 months has sealed Gaza's borders nearly hermetically, blocking access even in very critical situations. We have limited success in terms of helping individuals, and our public advocacy department, which is what the movie is part of, is dedicated to helping Israelis change their ideas about Gaza residents. We believe that any policy regarding access in Gaza must be based on the universal principle of protecting civilians and refraining from engaging in collective punishment. That is a principle that exists in international law. It exists in Israeli law as well. And we're asking Israel to live up to those values, its democratic values and its commitment to international law, by protecting Gaza residents and not using them as pawns in political games vis-a-vis Hamas.
Yeah, well, talking about Israel's commitment to international law and its own law, looking at the track record, the Israeli Supreme Court in other issues has reprimanded Israel's government for the building of settlements, continual building of settlements. It has ruled against the West Bank wall, yet the government seems to continue. That surely must give you little hope that you can achieve much through the legal route.
The legal route is part of a broader advocacy policy, and that advocacy policy needs to include influencing public opinion within Israel, which is what the film is designed to do. It includes direct advocacy before decision makers, and it includes advocacy before the international community. The closure policy of Gaza is a policy that is led by Israel, but Israel wouldn't be able to implement it without support and participation from others, including Egypt, the Palestinian Authority, and the international community. We are working both inside Israel to change what the Israeli government is doing, and we're also working to influence the international community to put pressure on Israel to stop the closure, and for those who are participating in the closure itself, for them to desist and allow Gaza's borders to reopen.
Why do you call it closure and not blockade or siege?
Our position is that Gaza is occupied territory. A blockade or a siege is something you might do to another country, a foreign country. Gaza is not a country. It is a territory living under occupation whose borders Israel controls. And what happened in June 2007, when Hamas took internal control of Gaza, is that Israel simply closed the borders it already controlled. It's important for us to say that because we believe that Israel owes obligations to Gaza residents under the law of occupation, including an obligation to use their control of Gaza's borders in ways that are consistent with the rights of Gaza residents, and especially their right to freedom of movement.
Sari Bashi, we thank you for your time. Well, as that animation we saw earlier indicated, the blockade has not only disrupted everyday life on land, but also at sea. Gaza's fishermen are now restricted to a fishing zone of 3 nautical miles, 85% less than the area agreed on in the 1994 Oslo Accords. And with the boundaries of the fishing zone constantly patrolled by the Israeli Navy, a traditionally dangerous job is now even more hazardous and far less lucrative.
The Mediterranean Sea, vast, tranquil and full of riches. But to the 35,000-strong fishing community in Gaza on its eastern shore, this sea is getting smaller and smaller. 45-year-old Khalid Abu Rayyala has been a fisherman for 25 years. Among his 10 children, 2 sons, Rafiq and Rajab, have followed in his footsteps to become fishermen too. When fishing used to be good business, Khalid was able to provide a decent living for his family of 14, but not anymore. Khalid's mother, a fisherman's wife herself, can remember happier times.
In the old days, my husband could go wherever he wanted, even to Egypt and Ashdod. He used to bring back plenty of fish and sell them. The whole sea was open to us.
But things have changed for her son.
Under the Palestinian Authority, we could fish within 20 miles, but that only lasted for 3 months. Then it was 12 miles. But whenever there was tension on land or sea, our fishing zone would immediately shrink. This is the season for stingray. It's a migrant fish that lives in deep water. You need to go at least 12 miles to catch them.
But there is no chance of that with present restrictions. Despite this, Khalid and his son Rajab are out on the sea again as part of a fishing fleet. But the prospects of a healthy catch are bleak. 10 years ago, Gazan fishermen were hauling 3,000 tons of fresh fish a year. Now, productivity has plummeted to 500 tons. For fishermen like Khalid, the new fishing limits are making life impossible.
A fisherman is a hunter. He needs to go after the fish. 3 miles is a joke. I can't even feed my family or make enough money to buy fishing nets, petrol or equipment.
But today, fishing in Gazan waters is not only frustrating, it is also fraught with danger.
If they attack us, I'm sure one of us will get injured. Even if they don't shoot directly and just shoot into the water, it can hurt someone.
Khalid's fear is not unfounded. Just after midday, at 2 miles out at sea, Khalid's fishing boat detects an Israeli patrol boat in the distance. A reminder that Gaza's borders don't just extend to land. Since late 2000, at least 14 fishermen have been killed by the Israelis and over 200 injured, including Khalid's 2 sons, Rajab and Rafiq. Rafiq was shot whilst out fishing last month.
I still have a lot of pain. I can't move very fast and was coughing blood, but now I'm getting better.
3 years earlier, his brother Rajab was also wounded whilst out at sea. The bullet pierced his lung. The brothers insist that they were well within the fishing limit when they were attacked. With such danger at sea, it's a tense wait for the family back home.
It breaks my heart. My heart is in my mouth all day until they come back.
And as often as not, they will return home empty-handed, having braved the danger for precious little reward.
Of course, we'd love to hear your views. You can email us on focusongaza@aljazeera.net. Thank you for watching.